Isaiah, hey bud. Here's a little compressed version of what we went over today in your lesson. You're going to start with the high E string and play the major scale, noting where the half steps are between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8, and calling the notes out loud. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Do the same thing in reverse. Of course, it's more difficult. But the technical exercise is just to apply the up-down to the same scale, and then to memorize what makes the natural minor, which is the flat 3, 6, and 7. So now we got 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 8. The other articulation is what I call the on-off. You can do that on any of the 6 strings. The previous one sounds the best, the up-down sounds best in the key of E. And when you're improvising, try the things that you can only do on one string. Big slides from scale turn to scale turn, doing skips and whatnot. Okay, then we took that principle and we applied it to triads. So now we're going to isolate the 1, 3, 5. So when you're playing that in E, I want you to memorize the notes in these 4 triads. So E, G sharp, B, and the E minor, E, G, B. Diminished, E, G, B flat, and augmented, E, G sharp. Believe it or not, I'm going to call this B sharp. There's very few moments where you call that B sharp, and this is one of them, E, G sharp, B sharp. And then we apply this to the triads that you basically already know. So here's the A form. So this goes root, 3rd, 5th. Major, E minor, E diminished, E augmented. I did point out that the augmented chord inverts every 4 frets, as opposed to the diminished 7th, which inverts every 3 frets. Okay, and now we give the same treatment to your D shape. This is voiced 5, 1, 3. That's called an inversion. I think you know that. Minor, diminished, augmented, which is the same shape as it was before, because it always is. And finally, what we were calling the E form with the root on top. So this goes 3, 5, 1. It's an A major, an A minor, an A diminished, probably the most useful diminished chord on the guitar, and then the yellowed augmented shape again. That's the boring part where you just memorize the voicing on each one. The interesting part is when you put it into specific keys and you play the diatonic row or series where the 2, 3, and 6 are minor, the 1, 4, and 5 are major. I love that breakdown because it's symmetrical. Always remember that. 3 major, 3 minor. No nonsense. 7, that's the outlier, it's diminished. So when you're doing this, you can pick a picking pattern, maybe like a alternating pattern. So A major, B minor, C sharp minor, D, E, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A. I'm not expecting you to follow that, I'm just reminding you that's what I want you to do. You should play each one a few times and really soak up the information. Same thing in the key of D. So D, E minor, F sharp minor, G, A, B minor, C sharp diminished, D. Come up with different patterns, challenge yourself. And then the key of E, now the root's on top, 3, 5, 1, major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A, B, C sharp minor, D sharp diminished, E. Okay, so now the last thing that I showed you, no, there's 2 more things I showed you. Applying that to not just triad scales, but bar chord scales. So 1, key of E, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, skip 7, octave. Same thing in the key of A, B minor, C sharp minor, D, E, F sharp minor, skip 7, A. And then the last thing we did today is we applied the idea of the natural minor and major scale to what I call static scales, which are scales in single positions. So we took the major scale that you've always played, we limited it to 1 octave, and then we manipulated it. We flattened the 3, 6, and 7. 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. So that's your template for a 1-octave natural minor scale. So now you stay at the 5th fret and just shift it to D. G. That's the first instance of the B shift. Because it's tuned half a step lower, you compensate by pushing the pattern up half a step higher when you get to the B. Otherwise, you tell your mind it's the same exact shape. Pattern. C minor, you're going to hit the B string and shift, but then you stay in position. And then for E, you need the final tonic below, the final notes below the tonic. And then you do the same thing in the major. I'm going to kind of expedite this a little bit. Here's my B shift. And then this is the anomaly. You want to start with your first finger. And then you're back to the middle finger. And you have to tag it at the end. All right, that's a whirlwind review of everything that we covered. And your job is to analyze and then play in each of the 3 different triad shapes the entire progression from Like a Rolling Stone, and put the song on and jam to it. And try out those C scales in different places, meaning those static C scales. Where'd be a fun place to play that scale? Well, you're creative. I'll let you to it. All right, brother, enjoy.